Welcome back. So tonight we had 7 games on instead of 8, as the Carolina-Nashville game was postponed, as I'm sure all of the people watching this will already know. And there was some overtime tonight. There was a little bit of overtime, and I started thinking the last game tonight was going to go to overtime too. It was close, but it didn't. So let's start things off. New Jersey and the Rangers. This is going to be a really fun rivalry this year, isn't it? So the Devils 32 seconds in, 32, and all I write underneath that goal is wow. It's one of those goals that just it happens. You're like, all right, that's a way to start. Zajac from Wood and Subban. So there were players I put on the board for the preview this morning that hadn't got points yet. Some of those players got points tonight. Subban's one of them. So nice goal by New Jersey, and it immediately puts the Rangers on the defensive. And then at 1 minute and 2 seconds, Kreider takes a penalty, and the Devils get a power play. So the Devils, all the momentum. Absolutely. And they outshot the Rangers 4-1, 8.5 minutes into the game. So momentum's on their side. McLeod then had a chance that was stopped. Blackwood then stopped a nice shot from Smith. The Rangers, they got pressing in this one with about 8 minutes left. But the Devils were blocking a lot of shots. And I don't think you can overestimate how important that is in a game like this where there's a lot of shots being taken. And so it's 1-0 New Jersey after 1. Second, Blackwood stopped Trouba early, and it is in the second period the Rangers really kind of take over when you look at the shots. But Blackwood said no. Blackwood's not a guy who has bad nights. He hasn't so far, not this season. There was a scramble at the Devils' end. Things get kind of scrummy 2 minutes into the period. And like I said, this is going to be a great rivalry. Absolutely great this year. The Rangers then get a power play, and they score on it. It's Kreider with the power play marker from Panarin and Fox at 2 minutes and 50 seconds. It went in off Ryan Murray's skate. So it's one of those goals that, yeah, you really can't fault the goaltender on that. However, we then, less than 2 minutes later, have Jack Hughes scoring from Smith and Sharangovich at 4:13. The Rangers then go back to the power play. They don't score on it. They certainly had a lot of power play opportunities. But then after that is done, with a beautiful steal and a breakaway, it's Jack Hughes. And Jack Hughes puts in a goal. So Hughes with 2 goals to that point. That's at 8:38. And yeah, so it's funny how early, against Boston, I'm talking about, hey, he's looking a lot better. And there were comments along the lines of, well, he's still got a lot left to do. He's got a lot of work. There's a lot of work left to be done with this kid. I don't know. He looked pretty good tonight. The Rangers then get a power play. Zibanejad would score on it from Fox and Panarin at 12:09. So Panarin with a couple of helpers. And then it's Wood. I don't know what's going on with Miles Wood right now, but he's got another goal. It's from Hughes and Palmieri at 16 minutes. So Jack Hughes with 2 goals and an assist in the second period. And he becomes one of 2 New Jersey Devils who've had 3-point games as a teenager twice. So that's impressive. Keep in mind he's still a teenager, and he got 3 points in the second period. So we go to the third period. Shesterkin would start the third, so Georgiev gets pulled out of there, and Hedl ends up scoring to make it close from DiGiuseppe and Buchnevich at 7 minutes. Blackwood then denied Lemieux. The Rangers end up going to the power play, and the Rangers got another power play with 3 minutes and 20 seconds left. They also pulled the goaltender, could not get that tying goal. The New Jersey Devils are 2-0-1. The Rangers are 1-2. So the shots were 10-7 New Jersey in the first, and then I guess all that shot blocking in the first, they decided, forget this, it hurts. And from there, the Rangers outshot them 22-10 in the second and 21-8 in the third. The final shots are 50-28 for the Rangers. So if you're the New York Rangers, if you come in with this game plan again and the next time you play New Jersey, you probably win the game. Power plays, New Jersey 1 for 2, the Rangers 2 for 6. Blackwood saves 47 out of 50. Just ridiculous numbers from Mackenzie Blackwood, seriously. Georgiev, 16 saves on 20 shots. Shesterkin saves all 8 shots he faces. Blackwood tonight proves why goals against average is not a good measure of a goaltender, because his goals against average tonight was 3, which is middling, but saving 47 out of 50, that's a pretty good save percentage. And so if you're a New Jersey fan, you got to be thinking, well, we can't allow 50 shots often, but if we do, At least we've got Blackwood. Next up, Philly. This was a great bounce-back game for the Flyers. I understand that there were injuries on both sides in this game. It's going to happen on back-to-back nights. We're going to see injuries taking place during this season. The teams that can absorb those injuries the best will be the ones that survive in the end. So the Sabres were clogging the middle of the ice again. They were doing a lot of the same things to start the game that they did in the last game because it worked. They won that one 6-1. Power play for the Sabres, it becomes a 5-on-3, but the Flyers kill that off. Much better start for the Flyers. Power play then for the Flyers. Their power play, remember during the playoffs when their power play wasn't very great? Yeah, this was it again. So that was an issue for the Flyers. And then there was a yard sale in the Philly end with 6.5 minutes left. It stays out of the net. Hutton then denied Lindblom. And then this is interesting too. So we start the second period, and this is where Captain Controversy raises its head. Notice the note that I have on the board. If you have your phone, you probably can't read it. If you're watching this on TV, you might be able to. I'll just read it word for word. Provorov tossed into Hutton, comma, Montour. Meaning Montour threw Provorov into Hutton. Hutton stays in. Hutton looked dazed on the play. I thought they should have taken Hutton out right then, and they didn't, which surprised me. I thought a concussion spotter would have said, hey, he needs to come out. That didn't happen either. But Provorov was tossed into Hutton. There wasn't really much Provorov can do when he's in the middle of the air, and he was facing the other direction, so it's not like he was facing Hutton and he brings his elbow out to smack him. He's looking the other way. It's one of those things where Montour, seriously, you shouldn't be throwing a guy into your own goaltender. It's not a Keith Ballard level of bad ideas, but it's up there. Remember Ballard with the stick? Anyway. So yeah, that happened, and sadly Hutton would end up leaving this game, but not right away. Raffl had a steal that fizzled out. Hutton then stopped a chance by Hayes. So Hutton was playing really well. He was legit playing very, very well. Elliott then denied a chance from Cousins. You get the feeling Dylan Cousins is right on the verge of a breakthrough for Buffalo as well. Power play then for the Sabres. Elliott stopped Eichel and Hall. Eichel and Hall had rough nights tonight. Obviously kept off the scoreboard. Both of them minuses on tonight's game. The Sabres had 10 straight shots. Lots of opportunities. And then the first shot Philly gets goes in. It's Konechny from Lindblom and Patrick at 17:51, and it was a breakaway goal. It was a beautiful goal by Konechny. He's already up to 4 on the season. And then the Flyers get a power play in the last seconds, legit, the last seconds of the second period. So we go to the third period. Johansson starts the third. Remember, Ullmark's already out for Buffalo. He was tested early, but Elliott was so good tonight. This was the best game I've seen Elliott play in a long time. Lindblom then with a steal in his own end. So Oscar Lindblom playing very well defensively. And then Voracek scores from Hayes and Gustafsson at 13:43. And that made it 2-0, and it became a situation where Buffalo wasn't going to come back. They pull the goalie. That allows Kevin Hayes to ice it at 18:18 to make it 3-0. The shots in this one were 11 apiece in the first period, 13-9 Buffalo in the second, 16-10 Buffalo in the third. So they outplayed him in many ways, but Elliott was the difference maker. 40 shots for Buffalo, 30 shots for Philly. Power plays, Buffalo 0 for 3, including that 5-on-3. And Philadelphia 0 for 2. Hutton saves 19 out of 20, and then Johansson saved 8 out of 9 in relief. Elliott, of course, his 41st shutout with 40 saves. Not too shabby. And I looked at him like, wow, that's his 41st career shutout. Not too bad. Not too bad for a guy we really don't talk about. All right, next up. Chicago and Florida. This game was wild. This was amazing. There was a lot of wild hockey tonight, and this is where overtime starts. The next 4 games I review all went to overtime. So this was Lankinen's debut. Well, it's the third goaltender Chicago's had in net, and I'm not going to say anything negative because honestly, Florida's got a lot of offense, but he didn't have a lot of game-breaking saves either. I mean, in overtime he was pretty good. But let's go through it. The shots are 6-2 for the Panthers at the half, and then Carter Verhaeghe. He's a pretty good player. I do think that he's one of the depth guys Tampa gave up in the offseason that they're really going to miss. He scores from Barkov and Duclair, 13-25, and it was on a nice break for him too. So it was a beautiful goal for Verhaeghe. The Panthers get a power play and they score. And who gets the goal in front of the net? In front of the net, it's Hornqvist. Hornqvist, a typical Hornqvist kind of goal. Yandel and Ekblad with the assists at 16-16, and it's 2-0. So, what happens next? Barkov takes a penalty, and he wanted an explanation from the referee on what that penalty was and why he was the one getting it. Doesn't get that many penalties. The Hawks get a power play, and Kubalik scores at 18:40. He's one of the guys I had on the board today as being scoreless so far in the season. Second period, early power play for the Panthers, and who gets the goal? Carter Verhaeghe. At 2 minutes and 45 seconds, it's 3-1 for Florida, and it looks like it's another long night for Chicago. They're just done. It's not going to happen. But the Hawks get a power play, and they score again on the power play. They had 2 power plays tonight. They connected both times. And who is it? It's Kubalik from Keith at Walmart at 8 minutes and 5 seconds, and we have ourselves a game. Boquist was hurt on a hit by Huberdeau. There were a lot of guys who got hurt during games. Zibanejad apparently got hurt on a innocent-looking play as well. I haven't heard anything about the updates. We'll get into updates in tomorrow's News of the Day in all likelihood. So, yeah. Then Panthers, there was a post for Tippett with 7.5 minutes left. Kane is now 0 for 4 on penalty shots in his career, which will surprise people, but Kane would score in the last minute of the second period to make it a 3-3 tie at 19 minutes and 10 seconds. So we go to the third period. The Panthers get a power play. They don't score on it. And then Kurashev scores his first NHL goal at 6 minutes and 6 seconds. And that's a play that if you're paying your goaltender a lot of money, you want him to stop that puck. I didn't like it. I looked at that one and I went, I'm glad Kurashev got his first NHL goal. That's one that definitely Bobrovsky should be stopping. So it put Florida behind, and it was off the glove and in. The Panthers go back to the power play. They score on it. So the Panthers' power play was almost as lethal as Chicago's tonight. It's Yandel with his 101st goal from Huberdeau at 7:17. And then it kind of tightens up a bit. And from there on, you could kind of tell we're going to overtime. And in overtime, Lankinen made a couple of really huge saves, but he can't stop them all. And Vetrano would score from Barkov and Weegar at 2:50. Beautiful goal by Vetrano. Love Frankie. And the Florida Panthers win this one in overtime, 5-4. Shots, 10 apiece in the first, 15-9 Chicago in the second, 8-6 Chicago in the third. Florida outshoots them 3-1 in the overtime. Final shots, 34-21 in favor of Chicago. Power plays, Chicago scores on both of theirs. Florida was 3 for 4. So for Chicago, they dropped to 0-3-1. Florida's 2-0. We'll see how things go. Lankinen saves 23 out of 28 for the Chicago Blackhawks. Bobrovsky saved 30 out of 34 for Florida. And moving along to game number 4. The Washington Capitals and Pittsburgh Penguins. You can never tell what's going to happen in a Capitals-Penguins game. So as soon as I went, all right, well, the Capitals are going to win this, it didn't happen. And this is the history of the game. And we're getting to a stage now where Ovechkin's got 1 goal in 4 games. And if that rate continues, watch for people to start panicking about the whole Gretzky record thing. He's still 1 goal behind Mike Gartner on the all-time goals list. And I guess he has another night to go before he reaches it. The Caps had a 3-0 edge in the shots early, and they would score. At 4 minutes and 55 seconds, it's Lars Eller from Oshie and Panik. So it's 1-0 Capitals, and they were playing really well. The shots were 6-1 in favor of them at 8 minutes. DeSmith stopped a chance from Sprong. Every time Sprong touched the puck, Pierre Maguire talks about how Sprong had been a member of the Penguins, and Sprong would be, trying to convince the Penguins they were wrong to let him go to Anaheim. And every time I heard that, I thought, no, this is a game that I don't think. I mean, maybe Sprong's thinking, but it's just I can't see Pittsburgh or the fans thinking we really miss Sprong. It was odd. It's one of those things that if you say it once, I'm going to go, it's a point. But if you keep bringing it up over and over and over again. There was a post for Oshie because the Penguins were stuck at 1 shot 12 minutes in. The Penguins were pinned in their own zone. But, like I said, Oshie hits the post. And then Sevier the other way from Kapanen and Bluger at 16:52. And that felt like a big goal because it was, until Wilson scores 6 seconds later off DeSmith's shoulder. And again, DeSmith's shoulder, that's one of those ones you look at and you say, DeSmith probably should have had it. He almost did. He almost saved it. So Wilson gets that from Ovechkin and Backstrom at 16:58. So the good news is Ovechkin's getting on the board. He is getting points, right? Wilson then scores from Carlson at 19:43. So Wilson with 2 goals. It's 3-1 Capitals after 1. So again, I'm looking at this and going, all right, so Smith's having a rough night. The Penguins are having an overall rough night. And the Capitals are outplaying them. But the second period shows why this is always a situation that is in flux at the best of times. Power play for the Penguins. For a minute and 21, they go to a 5-on-3. During that 5-on-3, Gensel gets a goal from Rust and Crosby at 5:45. Do not give this team a 5-on-3 man advantage. Don't do it. Kuznetsov would answer, though, from Sprong at 8:16, which, yes, caused those comments again. And then a power play for the Capitals, which turned into a 5-on-3. And then DeSmith with a highlight reel pass out, and Bluger takes it, and everybody knows I love Teddy Bluger, and he gets a 3-on-5 shorthanded goal at 15:07. So they scored 5-on-3, then they're down 5-on-3, and they scored that way as well. And, seeing it, I thought, I don't know how often I've ever seen a 3-on-5 goal. I didn't see all the stats. I'm sure somebody trucked up all the stats. I'm sure it's happened before, but it has to be rare. Because for all the hockey I watch, I don't often remember a 3-on-5 goal. So, fantastic play, and it turns out that's a really key moment in the game. But Malkin would then score on the power play from Letang and Crosby at 17:15. So again, a player I had on the board that didn't have a point yet. Malkin's on the board now. Nice goal. And Letang, I also had on the board. He got a point tonight as well. So the Pittsburgh Penguins respond to being down 3-1 in the first by outscoring the Capitals 3-1 in the second. Third period, there was a nice goal line stand by DeSmith on Kuznetsov. So after that first period where I thought DeSmith wasn't playing great, he was pretty solid through the second and the third. And it was a pretty evenly played third overall. Pittsburgh did outshoot the Capitals, especially late, but it still felt like this was pretty even. So when I went into overtime, I was like, yeah, that's fair. Both teams, I thought, played well enough to get a point. And then in the overtime, because it's Washington and Pittsburgh, Washington loses the overtime. This is kind of a historically accurate way of things playing out, just from the 80s and from watching hockey this long. So overtime, so Pittsburgh wins. This is just the way that I assume it's going to go down. And it's Crosby with the winner from Letang and Gensel at 1 minute and 11 seconds. So Sid the Kid on the scoreboard a few times tonight, and pretty good night for him. And so the Penguins come back, they win, they even the record at 2-2. For the Capitals, they're 2-0-2, but they had a chance to really put Pittsburgh behind the 8 ball, and they didn't. They really didn't. They let them off the hook, and they could regret this, say, 2-3 weeks from now when we look at the standings again. The shots were 11-5 Washington in the first, 10-7 Pittsburgh in the second, 12-7 Pittsburgh in the third, and 3-1 in the overtime. So final shots 30-26 for Pittsburgh. Washington 0-2 on the power play. Pittsburgh went 2-3. Vanacek saved 25 out of 30, not as sharp as he looked in this first game. And for DeSmith, 22 out of 26. Rough first period for DeSmith, pretty good the rest of the way for the Penguins. But of course, he only faced 15 shots after the first period, and he had 11 in the first period. Again, the battle of who's going to be the starter in Pittsburgh, definitely not decided yet. Anyways, I need to change boards. I had a hard time when we got to the LA game tonight, not just making a board just for that game, and I thought, no, that's going to make the review way too long. But by the time this started, all the other games were done, including Winnipeg in against Ottawa, and the Jets did it again. So the Jets can't keep doing this. This is one of those things where early in the season you're down and you can count on getting a comeback and a win in a game that maybe you shouldn't, but you can't count on this to keep happening. And for Ottawa, again, it's got to feel like that's a point they lost, and one of their, obvious rivals that you could have put them at 1 and 2, and you let them off the hook. So the Jets pressed on the opening faceoff, and that's about it. After that, the Senators really take over. They were ahead 7-1 in shots 2 minutes in. Yeah, that was the thing that happened. Power play then for the Senators. They score on it. Norris from Dadonov and Batherson at 4:41. Like I've been saying, the Senators' power play, which came into today 1 for 10 in their first 2 games, I think has looked good. I think it's looked better than it did last year. So they score on their first power play tonight. Makes sense to me. The Jets then get a power play. They don't score on it. And then Tierney scores from Zaitsev and Coburn at 10 minutes and 31 seconds. Braden Coburn, low-key, has been a decent pickup for the Senators as well. The Sens then tried for another power play for the Jets. It got 0 shots. So this is where the penalty kill's going well. Things are going really well for the Senators. They go back to the power play. They don't score on that one. But then in the last 2 minutes, it's one of those key goals, to avoid going into the locker room being down. Lowry scores from Pionk and Appleton at 18:09. So huge goal for the Jets in a period where they were outplayed badly. They're only down by 1 goal. So second period, early on, the Jets get a power play. It's not effective. The Senators get pressed for another goal 5 minutes in. They end up getting a power play. And halfway through this game, the Sens had outshot Winnipeg by a margin of more than 2-1. This was absolutely an Ottawa game that if you tuned in and you weren't aware, you'd go, wow, so Winnipeg's not a very good team then, because they didn't look good through a lot of the first half of the game. The Senators get a power play after Connor had a chance to go high, and it's Galchenyuk on the power play. So he gets into the lineup. Stützle's out, so he gets into the lineup, and he gets a goal. And he gets that from Riley and Stepan at 11:47, and it looks genius. You throw Galchenyuk in the lineup, you throw him on the power play, and he gets a goal. So it's 3-1. But the Jets get a power play not too long after that, and it's Connor scoring from Wheeler and CHI-FLA at 16:12. I love Kyle Connor. The player is just great, and honestly, yes, he is one of the underrated players in the National Hockey League. Everybody talks about Laine, and rightfully so. Laine is a special talent, but Connor's pretty darn good himself. So you go to the third period, some line shuffling by the Jets, which is never the way you want things to be going. You don't want to be the one having to do the line shuffling in the third, because it means things aren't quite clicking. So the Senators get a power play. The Jets get one after that. Matt Murray stopped CHI-FLA. They pulled the goalie with 2 minutes left. And when a team pulls the goalie, your usual expectation is that there's going to be an empty net goal. But 6-on-5, Winnipeg gets the tying goal. And it's Wheeler from Morrissey and CHI-FLA at 18:43. So Wheeler with a goal, Wheeler with an assist. His points are up right now. And we're going to overtime. In overtime, Batherson was absolutely denied by Laurent Brossoit. Brossoit, much like DeSmith in the Pittsburgh-Washington game, Brossoit started out slow tonight, and I didn't think he looked great, especially when they were down 2-1, or 2-0, I should say, about 10.5 minutes in, right? And I didn't think he was playing great, but then he got it together. He was very good the rest of the way. And it's Ehlers, another player I really like from the Jets, scoring from Copp and Morrissey at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And again, they're down, they come back, they win. It's a formula that'll make Jets fans feel happy. It's not a formula that you can keep counting on as the season gets older. So for the Jets, they end up 2-1. The Ottawa Senators are 1-1-1. And the Sens are proving to be a pretty tough out. Ottawa outshot Winnipeg 18-9 in the first period, 14-8 in the second. Then Winnipeg outshot them 10-8 in the third period, and both teams had one shot in the overtime. 41-28 were the final shots in favor of Ottawa. Power plays, Winnipeg goes 1 for 5. Ottawa went 2 for 5. Their power play was effective tonight. And Norris is a legit solid forward for them. Very, very good for him. Very, very good for them so far. Brossoit ends up saving 38 out of 41. Murray saved 24 out of 28. I thought Murray played well. He did allow the 6-on-5 goal and then the overtime goal, but I thought he did. I thought he played well. It's just those last two go in, and it turns his numbers ugly. We'll see how he responds in the next game. How the Senators respond in the next game. Next up, Detroit and Columbus. I don't know if Columbus is in trouble. It kind of feels like they are, and I'm not sure where the trouble is. But they didn't look very good against Detroit tonight. They legit just and I'll say this too. Detroit deserves credit for this. Detroit is now 500, 4 games into the season. They deserve credit for it, and I don't want to take anything away from Detroit. But Columbus, more was expected of Columbus. So the fact they've won one of their first 4, Tortorella guaranteed isn't happy, and Columbus management likely isn't happy either. The shots were 5-1 Columbus 6 minutes in. And I thought Bernier was probably going to have to steal another game. And it didn't really turn out that way. Nemeth was wide on a shot during a 3-on-2. Foudy had a really good chance late in that period, which was denied, but out of the first period, it's scoreless. Second period, Jenner scores early from Domi and Savard at 1:38, and was right over the shoulder. There was no chance for Bernier on that one at all. None. Then there's a power play for the Red Wings, and then shorthanded, Buddy Robinson, almost scores. So pretty close to it being 2-0, but that doesn't happen. And on that power play, Mantha scores from Bertuzzi and Larkin at 3:37. So they dodge a bullet there, and they end up in a tie game at that stage. Columbus gets a power play. It's unsuccessful. Larkin had a chance that missed wide, and then it's Bobby Ryan. Bobby Ryan setting a record tonight. He scores from Merrill and Nielsen at 14 minutes and 17 seconds. So this is his third game as a member of the Detroit Red Wings. That is his fourth goal in that third game. And he's the first in Red Wings history to score 4 goals in his first 3 games wearing a Red Wings jersey. That's a stat that Bobby Ryan can be proud of. And you wonder with Bobby Ryan, like, okay, so Ryan, how far can he go with this? Can he get 20 goals in 56 games? Are we going to see a 20-goal season from Bobby Ryan? I don't know. Columbus pushed back for an answer. Solid defensive game then by the Wings. Overall, I thought they were playing really, really well. They actually outshot Columbus in that period. They were defending. They were boxing them out. Third period, Robinson denied a Filppula chance. So Filppula had an opportunity to maybe get one, and Robinson prevented him from playing it. And then Texier scores from Kukan and Foudy at 5:04. So that ties things up. Columbus get a power play. The Wings pressed with 9 minutes left, and the Wings were controlling the play in the second half of the period. I was really surprised. The Wings were playing very, very well. Merzlikins was honestly the only reason this was being tied at the later stages. Merzlikins was the story in that third period. So you go to overtime. And this is where Mickey Redmond, I love the guy. I think Mickey Redmond's fantastic. And I know people are going to say, well, he's biased. But there's a fun bias and there's a not a fun bias. He's debating about who he thinks the Red Wings are going to have on the ice to start the overtime. And while he's having this debate, they scored. Didn't matter who he thought was going to be on the ice for the overtime because they scored. And it was a wow goal. Bertuzzi, Larkin with the helper at 15 seconds. It bounces in off Bertuzzi. It was not kicked in or anything. And the wow is also for the fact that Detroit's 500. They knock off the Columbus Blue Jackets. They win this one 3-2. And I think the thing with Detroit is they've looked good through the first 4 games. They lack that superstar, unless Bobby Ryan's going to be the guy, right? But the effort's there, and every night they're in it. So this is kind of cool. This is a good thing. We'll see how far they can go with it. But if they can win every other game, they're staying in it because you're against teams you have to beat, and you're staying in the hunt, and you're making it harder for a team like Columbus to make that move. And they beat Carolina in that other game. They're making it difficult for teams. Shots were 8-7 Columbus in the first, 10-8 Detroit in the second, 8 apiece in the third, and then Detroit gets both shots in the overtime because the Larkin shot bounces to Bertuzzi and then it ends up in the net. So the initial save is made and then the puck goes in the net. Power plays, Columbus 0-2. Detroit scored on the only power play they had, so this wasn't a dirty game by any stretch. Merzlikins, 24 saves on 27 shots. Bernier, 22 saves on 24 shots. Bernier's win-loss record's pretty good. So for Detroit, we'll see what they do in their next game, but they're 2-2. Kudos. I genuinely surprised, and it's a pleasant surprise. It's a pleasant surprise to see that they've already won a couple of games. Last game, Colorado and LA. This one got interesting when it shouldn't have been. Colorado looked like the much better team. And then I don't know what happened here. I don't know where it turns. But the struggle became real. The Avs were forcing turnovers early, and that's the storyline throughout this game. It might be something that the Kings need to work on as much as it's something that the Avs are just really good at. Force the defense to turn the puck over and again and again. And it was happening a lot, where I think by the third period there were 11 turnovers committed by the LA Kings. A good heaping of those were from the blue line. Sod scores from McKinnon and Calvert at 3:07. That was only the second shot. And McKinnon created the turnover. The puck goes to Calvert, to Sod, and in the net. So McKinnon, prominent tonight, had a very good game. The Avs were really swarming the Kings at that point, where it looked like this could get ugly. This was the same way they played in that 8-0 win over St. Louis at that stage. And they end up with a power play. But the shots are 4 apiece at the half, as the Kings did start fighting back and they did start showing something. The Kings rebounded from that slow start. Landeskog had a shot that went wide. Grubauer, I thought, looked pretty good. Enjoyed watching Grubauer tonight. I thought he had a good game. McKinnon had a wraparound that was stopped late in the period, but we go to the second period, and it's 1-0, but it feels like it should be more than that. Peterson had a goal line stand, or so it looked initially, but no. The puck went in the net. So they challenged it. Todd McClellan challenges that, and it worked. It was deemed that it was incidental contact with the goaltender. I thought that could have gone either way. So when the call on the ice was that it was a goal, I thought, well, it'll probably stand, because I didn't think there was conclusive evidence to overturn it, but it wasn't on the board. Power play then for the Kings at 2 minutes. Dangerous chances for Elias Anderson. Elias Anderson had a really solid game tonight as well for the Kings. Doughty, this is a funny thing. So I'm watching the Kings feed, right? Doughty goes to hit Landeskog, which is just, it's a bad idea. He bounced off of him. So he went to throw a hit. Landeskog saw him coming, braces himself, and Doughty just bounces off of him. No effect whatsoever. And they're like, but still, let's Landeskog know this is how it's going to go. Does it, though? Like, I don't know. Guy runs up to hit you, and he bounces off you and falls into the boards. Are you going to go, man, that's how tonight's going to go? That's a shame. I better change my plans. Doughty, again, Doughty had a decent enough game, but that was kind of a funny comment tonight. I thought, I don't know that that's going to necessarily dissuade Landeskog from going after Doughty next time. The Doughty just bounced off of him. The Avs get a power play. No shots on that power play. Good penalty kill by the Kings. Kings almost crashed one in at 12 minutes. The Avs go back to the power play. This time they score. The Avs power play figured it out. It's Taves from Girard and Donskoy at 14 minutes and 11 seconds. That makes it 2-0. And then they get another power play. So what had happened was, before this puck went in, there's another penalty coming. And as soon as the puck goes in, guy number 1 comes out of the box. Guy number 2 goes into the box. I think it was Roy that went in the second time. And so on that power play, you might as well score on that one too. Nope, that's not right. So there's a lot of penalties. So the Taves one happens, then there's another power play. Rantanen scores from McKinnon and Landeskog at 16:06, and then the Kings took another penalty right after that. So this was the period that the Kings spent in the penalty box, which against Colorado is a bad idea. They don't score on that next one, though. And then the Kings get a late power play chance. So third period, they're down 3-0. There's some early Kings chances. The Avs were still forcing turnovers and forced a power play out of it. And it felt like if Grubauer saw it, he would stop it. And clearly the Kings saw I wrote that on the board and went, hey, let's get in his way. So on a screenshot, Athanasiou scores from Anderson and Roy at 7:50. And not only was there a partial screen on it, but there was no chance. That was top corner. And that's 3 games in a row that Athanasiou has scored as a member of the Kings. Andreas Athanasiou, who was a 30-goal scorer just a couple years ago, had a rough year. So everybody just dumped him, including GMs. He's a bum. Look at his numbers last year. All right. And now here he is with 3 goals in 3 games. He looks pretty good, and it helped spur the Kings towards the idea that maybe they can get back in this. Velarde had a chance that was denied. Velarde's stick work is really good, and his puck handling is solid. I think the numbers are going to come. I think that he did a good job tonight. Late in the game, he was noticeable as well. The puck's going to start going in the net for him. The Kings get a power play, and they score on it. And it's Kempe with the goal from... I put Brown and Kopitar. I don't know what the official scoring is now. Last time I looked, it said just Kempe. But it bounced off of Brown to Kempe, and it was Kemper that passed it, and looked to me like it bounced off of Brown. So I put that up there at 14:22. And people always try to correct me on the official scoring. When I'm done these reviews, I don't care. I write on these boards all night, and then when the review's done, the boards get put aside, and in the morning I just erase them all. and I start all over the next night. So I don't really care. So be like, hey, you know, they changed the assist on this to this guy. Good for him. That's great. So if that's not right, I apologize, and I move on. A 2-on-1 then, and Kadri missed. Calvert had a break that was denied. And then there was a frantic finish, but the Avs managed to hang on. Some nice goaltending by the Kings, as the Avs had a couple of shots at that empty net, but some nice goaltending at the NSCU with a nice kick save. And yeah, 3-2 is your final in favor of the Avalanche. So they survive it. Shots were 9 apiece in the first, 10-8 for Colorado in the second, and 8-5 in favor of the Kings in the third. Final shots, the Kings actually outshot them 25-24. Power plays, that's what killed them. 2 for 6 for the Colorado Avalanche, 1 for 3 for the Kings. You reverse those numbers, you reverse the result. But you just can't take those kinds of penalties against the Avs, who early on look like they've probably got the most deadly power play in the NHL. And then you look at the players that are on that power play and you go, it checks out. Grubauer saved 23 out of 25, solid start. And Peterson saved 21 out of 24 in his first game of the season. I thought he played well. Again, he's a kid, so I don't expect fantasticness from him, but I thought Peterson played all right. Of the 3 goals, I mean, there's 2 power play markers in there, and the Saad one was a nice one too, so I don't know what he could have stopped out of the 3, but we'll see who they go with in their next game. The Kings dropped to 0-1-2, and for the Avs, they're 2-1. For the Kings, the first 2 games, they had leads that they lost, and in this one, they get behind and they couldn't come back, so there's still some stuff to work on. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. You make it worth doing this. I will talk to you again soon.